If the police had arrived 10 minutes later, I honestly don't think I'd be alive right now. I've told this story to a few people over the years, but most of them think I either imagined it or exaggerated parts of it. I wish that were true. When this happened, I was 20 years old and working as a night security guard at a distribution warehouse outside Columbus, Ohio. The place wasn't special. It was just a massive concrete building surrounded by chain link fences, loading docks, and empty parking lots. My shift started at 10 p.m. and ended at 6 a.m. Most nights were painfully boring. I'd spend hours staring at security monitors, walking through empty hallways, and drinking cheap coffee to stay awake. The warehouse operated only during the day, so after midnight, I was usually the only person in the entire building. At first, I loved that. No managers, no co-workers, no distractions. Just me, the cameras, and 8 hours of silence. The building had more than 40 surveillance cameras covering every entrance, hallway, loading dock, and storage area. Whenever something unusual happened, I was expected to investigate it immediately. In the 6 months I'd worked there, nothing interesting had ever happened. Not once. No break-ins, no vandalism, no emergencies. That changed on a Thursday night in October. I remember the date because it was the night before my birthday. Around 2:13 in the morning, one of the exterior cameras suddenly flickered. At first, I didn't think much of it. Old cameras glitched all the time. Then I noticed something standing near Dock 4. And that's when everything started. I leaned closer to the monitor and stared at the screen. The figure was standing near Dock 4, just inside the camera's view. At first, I assumed it was a trespasser. That wasn't impossible. The warehouse sat near a stretch of highway, and every now and then, homeless people would wander onto the property looking for shelter. But something felt wrong. The person wasn't moving, not even slightly. Most people shift their weight, look around, or pace when they're standing outside in the cold. This figure did none of those things. It just stood there, perfectly still. I checked the timestamp in the corner of the screen. 2 minutes passed, then 3. The figure never moved. Finally, I grabbed my flashlight and headed outside. The loading docks were less than a minute from the security office. As I walked through the building, I kept telling myself there had to be a simple explanation. Maybe someone was waiting for a ride. Maybe it was a delivery driver who had gotten lost. Maybe the camera angle was making the situation look stranger than it really was. When I reached Dock 4, the area was completely empty. No person, no vehicle, nothing. The rain had started coming down harder, and the asphalt reflected the yellow security lights like a mirror. I swept my flashlight across the fence line. Still nothing. For a moment, I felt relieved. The camera had probably glitched. That explanation lasted about 10 seconds. Because when I returned to the security office and looked at the monitor again, the figure was still standing there, in exactly the same position. Waiting, I went back outside again. This time I didn't even tell myself it was a misunderstanding. I just needed to be sure. The rain was heavier now, hitting the metal roof of the warehouse in uneven, constant noise. When I reached Dock 4, I stopped. There was still no one there. But something felt different. The air was colder than it should have been, and the silence felt intentional, like the building was holding its breath. I turned on my flashlight and slowly scanned the area again. Fence, ground, loading zone, nothing. Then my radio crackled. At first I thought it was just interference. Then I heard breathing. Not static, not feedback. Breathing. Slow. Controlled. Right next to my ear. I froze. And then a voice came through the radio. Quiet. Almost calm. Go back inside. I didn't answer. I couldn't. My body moved before my thoughts did. I turned around and walked back toward the security office. Fast. Not running, but close. Every step felt louder than it should have been. Halfway back, the warehouse lights flickered, once, twice. Then every light in the building shut off. Total darkness. My flashlight became the only source of light. And for the first time that night, I realized something worse than finding someone outside. Not finding them at all. Because now I knew. Whatever was here, it wasn't limited to the cameras. I kept moving, but now every instinct in my body was screaming at me to stop. The flashlight barely cut through the darkness anymore. The warehouse felt different without power. Bigger, colder, like all the empty space had turned into something I couldn't see. I reached the main hallway and paused. That's when I heard it. Footsteps, not mine. Behind me. I turned around fast and pointed the flashlight down the corridor. Nothing, just empty concrete and rows of storage doors. But the footsteps didn't stop. They kept going. Slow at first, then closer. I backed up toward the security office, trying to keep the beam steady, but my hand was shaking now. The sound was wrong. It didn't echo like normal footsteps in an empty building. It sounded soft, like something barefoot, or like something trying not to be heard. Then it stopped, right in front of me. I didn't see anything, but I felt it. That's the only way I can describe it. Like the space in front of me was occupied by something my eyes couldn't process. My radio crackled again, and this time there was no voice, just breathing. Slow, right in sync with mine. I took one step back, then another, and suddenly the emergency lights flickered on for half a second. In that moment, I saw something at the end of the hallway. A shape, too tall, too thin, and gone before I could focus. The lights shut off again, and now I wasn't alone in the dark anymore. I ran. I didn't even think about it anymore. I just ran back toward the control room like it was the only place left in the entire building that still belonged to reality. The hallway behind me stayed dark, but I could feel it following. Not directly behind me, but close enough that I didn't want to look back. Every step echoed too loudly, like the warehouse was listening. When I finally reached the control room door, I slammed it shut and locked it with both bolts. For a second, there was silence. Real silence. And then the radio on the desk turned its safe on. Static filled the room. I didn't touch it. The monitors flickered back on one by one, even though the power was still out in the building. CCTV feeds, every camera, every angle, and every single one showed the same thing. The hallway, empty, until I saw myself on one of the screens, standing in the corridor, not moving, facing the camera. But I was in the control room. I was looking at the monitor. So that wasn't me. The radio crackled again. This time, no breathing. Just my own voice. Soft, close, coming from the speaker. Turned around. I couldn't move. My body just froze completely. And then I heard something behind me inside the control room. Right behind my chair. Slow movement, like something was leaning forward, breathing. And I finally understood something I didn't want to understand. Whatever this was, it had already gotten inside. I don't remember standing up. I don't remember turning around, but I remember what I saw. Nothing. The chair behind me was empty. The room was exactly how it was supposed to be. And for a split second, I almost convinced myself that my mind had completely broken from exhaustion. Then the monitors changed. All of them at once. The cameras stopped showing the hallway. Instead, they showed the control room from above, from corners, from angles that didn't exist in the building. And on every screen, I was sitting there, still, not moving, but I was already standing. I stepped back slowly, trying to understand what I was looking at. The radio on the desk turned on one last time. No static, no breathing, just silence. Then a single sound, a camera click, like something had just taken a picture, and every monitor froze on the same frame, me, sitting in the chair, looking straight ahead, but behind me in that frame, there was something leaning over my shoulder, too close, too clear. And I know for a fact that I was alone when that frame was captured. Because in real life, I was standing across the room, watching it happen. That was the moment I ran. I don't remember leaving the building. I don't remember the parking lot. I just remember the sunrise hitting my windshield while I was already miles away. 2 weeks later, I quit. I never went back. But sometimes, when I see security cameras in stores or gas stations, I still catch myself wondering if something is standing behind me right now, would I even see it? Or would it only show up on the screen?